I have never been a big people person. In fact, I wholeheartedly cloak my burning disdain for the human race on a regular basis. When I have to go out in the public or go to work, I mainly just try to keep to myself. I have little interest in making friends or keeping a girlfriend. Every now and then, I'd have the occasional booty call or just hook up with a methed out whore at a bar. It never goes beyond that, and I would never want it to. I guess you're assuming at this point that I'm a pretty cold guy. Cold isn't really the right word. I'd describe myself as more numb and indifferent. We all have our sob stories, and I won't bore you with mine. It's easier to just say that events have taken place from my childhood through my adulthood that scarred me beyond repair. On a cold, rainy night in late October, I was at home, drunk, and watching a horror movie marathon on TV when my phone began to ring. Surprise, surprise. It was Penny, a drugged out floozy who was one of my booty call contacts. I answered, and immediately I noticed she was panicked. "Troy," she yelled into the phone. "Ugh, what do you want, Penny?" I said in an irritated tone. "I need a place to lay low for a while. Can you help me out?" I readjusted myself in my seat. "What did you do this time? Who did you steal from now?" "Oh, come on, baby. Don't leave me out here with my ass hanging out." I paused for a few seconds. I took out a cigarette from my pack and lit it. "What's in it for me?" I asked as I exhaled the first drag. "I'll make you feel so good you won't regret it." "That's what I wanted to hear," I said. "Bring your ass on over." It was only 10 minutes later or so that she buzzed me and I let her in. When she entered my apartment, she was wet from the rain falling outside. I handed her a towel from my laundry hamper. "You might as well just leave your clothes off," I said. "You can put 'em in the dryer afterwards." "Can you go put them in the dryer for me?" she asked. "You live here, not me." I scoffed and I said, "I'm already doing you a favor by letting you stay here. Besides, I ain't leaving you alone in my apartment. I know what you do." Her hands dropped to her hips and she tilted her head to the side. "Really, Troy? You think I'd steal from you?" I shot her a look and said, "I know you would steal from me. You seem to forget my old man is a meth head too. I know you'd steal whatever from whomever so you can go sell it at a pawn shop so you can go get more of that junk. So don't give me that crap." She stood there with her bra and underwear on for a second, just staring angrily at me. "What am I supposed to wear to the laundry room?" she asked in a disgusted tone. I began to pour another Jack and Coke and said, "Wear the towel I just gave you." "God, you are such an asshole," she said. I gave a chuckle. "Yeah, and that's the way you like it." I took a big gulp out of my drinking glass and turned back around to face her. Alright, well, I'm horny as fuck. And it isn't going to be a quickie either because I got some serious whiskey dick. So you're gonna have to ride my nuts like you mean it. And we fucked for about an hour. She loves it. Whether her orgasmic shrieks were real or not, it didn't matter to me. I was getting what I wanted, and that was all I cared about. Afterwards, she hopped in my shower, and I reached over to the bedstand and grabbed the remote to my TV. I turned it on to see the news. The news lady was reporting a story about a man who was released from a juvie facility recently. Apparently, he went back to the house where he was said to have killed his two friends a couple years ago, right here in Iowa. He walked in and drenched the whole place in gasoline, lit a match, and burned the house down with himself still inside. Jesus, I said to myself, reaching for my pack of cigarettes. This whole world is fucking crazy. I then looked over at Penny's wet clothes, and I started to feel shitty about the way I treated her when she first got here. Maybe it's because the sex was better than usual, and I caught a feeling for her. But she's just a thieving druggie, and how could you ever trust a person like that? Still, I got up, got partially dressed, and took her clothes to the laundry down the hall and put them in the dryer. After her clothes were dry, I went back to my apartment where she was digging around in her backpack that she had brought with her. "Hey," I said, startling her. "I dried your damn clothes." She stared at me for a minute, with her hand still inside of her backpack, and said, "Thanks." "Yeah, don't read anything into it," I said. I turned around to go back into the kitchen to make another drink, when suddenly she said, "Oh, don't worry, I won't." And then I heard the clicking sound of a gun cocking. I turned around, and there Penny was, aiming a snub-nosed pistol at me. "What the—" "Oh, I fucking knew it," I said, disgusted that I didn't trust my gut instincts. "You are a fantastic lay, Troy, and I don't want to shoot you." I stared at her for a second and said, "You shoot, and the whole fucking building will hear it." She stood there, shaking the gun in her hand, obviously nervous about what she was doing. "Then don't make me use it," she said, with a quiver in her voice. "I'm gonna need that heirloom your mother gave you before she died. You know, that old train conductor's watch you told me about a year ago or so. I looked it up on the internet, Troy. It's worth thousands of dollars." Any feelings I might have thought I had for Penny died right at that moment. "You bitch," I said with a rage. "You know that's all I have left of my mother. It was my great-great-grandfather's." She paused for a second. "Look, I'm in a bad way with some worse people, and I need the money. They'll kill me if I don't get it to them. They'll kill me, Troy. I know you wouldn't give it to me freely, so that's why I'm doing this. Please, just hand it over." I stared dead into her eyes. Just silence. And then a rumbling sound shook the whole floor. It was kind of like the sound of a stomach growling. We both took notice of the noise, and then suddenly, the wall behind Penny, it began to open up, like a doctor making a perfect incision on a patient, and then it began to peel open, and a red glowing light came bursting out, illuminating my dark bedroom. Red. Penny turned around, and what was there in the red light was a giant eyeball looking directly at her. And that's when a giant tongue shot straight out from behind the eyeball and wrapped itself around Penny's nude body. Penny screamed in bloody murder, begging me to help her. I fell down on my ass and just watched in sheer terror. Penny was fighting and squirming to get free, to no avail. This giant demonic tongue then proceeded to lift Penny up near the ceiling, hung her upside down by her foot, and then it revealed its long, razor-sharp teeth. I watched as they slowly protrude out of the rims of my bedroom wall, like some giant Venus flytrap, and put Penny inside its mouth and bit down. The teeth bit her body in half, tearing and ripping Penny into two pieces. Her intestines and her organs spilled onto my bedroom floor, and at that moment I felt the contents of my stomach come up. I tried to catch it with my hands, but I missed most of it. After the sounds of crunching bones and squishing organs, this thing put the other half of Penny in its flytrap-like mouth and finished its meal. I sat there in the corner of my bedroom, crying, shaking, and paralyzed with fear, when suddenly it spoke to me. What an exquisite whore. I was sure that I was next. I stared and I started praying, asking God to intervene and spare my life. Could you please stop with that shit? It's pissing me off. I looked up slowly to see this giant eye looking right at me, then directing its gaze upon Penny's entrails on the floor. I can be a bit of a messy eater. Let me clean it up for you, it was saying to me. And its giant tongue came out once more from behind its eye and dragged its tongue across the bedroom floor, licking up what was left of Penny. What? I struggled to say. What am I? The wall-bound creature asked, completing my sentence. I am on furlough from the third circle. I came here to eat. My eyes were finally able to look up and into its. Are you gonna kill me too? I said with my whole body trembling. It gave a deep, guttural laugh and said, "Oh, oh, not you, Troy." It called me by my name, and for some reason I found a strange comfort in that. It went on to tell me how foolish it would be to consume me, seeing that I was the sole occupant of the residence, and this is where it made me a proposition. Think of me as an opportunity, it told me. Bring to me the ones you most despise. Bring to me the ones who have wronged you, and I will have my meal, and you will have your thirst for vengeance sated. And come midnight on November 1st, I will be called away back to the third circle of the pit. As soon as he said that, instantly, without any effort, a memory of my father beating the shit out of me ran through my head. And before I could say my father's name, it said, "Yes, bring him to me." The next morning, I called my dad. For the first time in years, we spoke. He seemed more docile than I remembered. "Strange you calling me on Halloween," he said. And it was right at that moment that I realized I had forgotten it was Halloween. All that time sitting in front of the TV, drunk, watching horror movies, and that one little fact seemed to just slip right by me. Anyways, my father agreed to visit. I paced back and forth through my apartment, trying to come to grips with what it was I was about to do. I'm going to feed my father to a demon? I thought to myself. Only the most vile, inhuman piece of shit would... And then I paused that thought. Memories of my methed up, drunk father beating the shit out of me, smacking around my faithful mother, and leaving me alone with my uncle who... That son of a bitch. He doesn't deserve any remorse. He doesn't deserve any mercy. He drove my mother to an early grave. He ruined my childhood, and now I have a limited opportunity to discreetly remove this piece of shit from the world. By the time my father arrived, it was nearing 7 p.m. The trick-or-treaters were already out and about, crowding the sidewalks and collecting their candy. It isn't like the guy lived hours away from me, but it's typical that I would end up dead last on his list of importance. Then there was a knock on the door. Finally, my dad was here. Besides for a few wrinkles and gray hair, he appeared to be the same. "Hey, son," he said. "Hi, Dad," I said as I let him into my home. "How you been?" was his first question for me. "I'm living my life. You know how it is. Surviving." He walked into the kitchen and noticed bottles of beer and whiskey on the counter. "I see you've developed a taste for alcohol." "Yeah? So do you, if memory serves." And he looked down at his feet after I said that. "Yeah, I used to be one mean fucking drunk." "You don't have to remind me," I quickly responded. "And yet you're the one who called me over here, invited me over." "Why?" he asked. I went silent. I just looked away. As he made his way into my bedroom, he was seemingly just browsing around, trying to find the strength to say something that perhaps he had been practicing, when suddenly he walked directly in front of the wall. He then spun around, seemingly close to tears, and said, "I did what I could for you, boy. I did what I could to toughen you up for the harsh world ahead. I have no regrets." And in that moment, I realized that now that he had gotten older, he had performed some serious mental gymnastics and convinced himself that he was a good parent. I wasn't gonna let him get away with it. No. "No regrets?" I shouted. "You used to leave me with your pedophile brother," and he cut me off mid-sentence. "Now you hold on a minute, boy." And then I cut him off and I said, "No, you listen. You were a drunk, drugged out, neglectful piece of shit, Dad. And you still are. and I have always wanted to tell you this. Fuck you. And after I said that, I shoved my father into the wall, and the wall opened up like it had last night for Penny, and I stood and watched the demon devour my father whole. His screams were music to my ears. His flesh being torn from his bones were the sounds of justice. After watching for a minute, I turned around and began walking out of the room. But I stopped and I looked back and I said, "Happy Halloween, Wally."